Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone, wherever you might be. As a lot of you may know, my name is Tyrone Siren. I'm a partner here at Holborn Assets. Um, and today we're going to be talking about the EB5 investment program. We'll discuss the EB5 program in general and then talk about the process and the benefits of it. And then we have two special guests today. Ken Frost from the Calvary Water Recycling EB5 project located in West Texas, and also a familiar face to many of you, Pedro from Excellium Capital, who also is our key partner for the Portuguese Golden Visa. Now he's going to join us to talk a little bit about his partnership with Ken and what he has seen when he's went out and visited the project himself, and how they're partnering together. So Holborn Assets is a global wealth management company. It was founded in 1998. It's a British family firm with about 500 employees and 23 offices around the world, and about 20,000 clients. Holborn Pass is an entity inside of Holborn Assets. It's a division that we set up about 4 years ago, and and we focus mostly on investment migration and business startup visas and work visas for people who want to immigrate and gain global mobility. A bit about myself. I started in the immigration business about 16 years ago. And I focused mostly on the EB5 project over the past 15 years. So over the course of the last 15 years, more than 1,000 clients from around the world. And, when I joined Holborn a few years ago, we started doing the Portuguese Golden Visa because the EB5 program was winding down just a bit. But in 2022, the EB5 program kind of was reinvented by the U.S. government and kind of reintroduced. And so I've started promoting that again a lot at Holborn. But Holborn offers a lot more than just EB5 or Portugal for that matter. We are a full service firm that offers programs around the world. So we offer citizenship programs, particularly in the Caribbean, which can lead to citizenship and a passport in about a year for the cost of $150,000. And then, of course, we offer a range of residency programs in Europe, particularly Portugal, Greece, and Spain. So if the EB5 is not quite the right fit, or the U.S. is not quite the right destination for you, we have a range of programs that can help you out, and we can help get you there. We have a great team of people who specialize in each one of these countries. Now, a little bit about the EB5 program. The EB5 program started in 1990. So, it's a very stable program. It's one of the earliest investment migration programs in the world, and it's been incredibly popular since its inception. In 2022, and we'll get to this, the U.S. government kind of changed some of the regulations and kind of what I think strengthened the program very much and made it a much more attractive program. As you can see, it's also an incredibly popular program. Back when I started in about 2008, there was less than 1,000 families participating in the EB5 program, and somewhere around the mid-teens of 20 teens, it skyrocketed up to more than 14,000. A lot of those applications came from China, from Vietnam, from India, but increasingly, EB5 is diversified. We have clients from around the world now, clients from Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Okay. Now, the great thing about EB5 is there's not a lot of requirements, actually. It really is one of the fastest, easiest ways for people to immigrate to the U.S. if they have $800,000. The hard part is getting that $800,000. So the idea is that you make an investment into at least $800,000 into certain designated areas. And these areas could be rural areas, which we're going to discuss today, areas with less than 20,000 people in the metropolitan area, or areas of high unemployment. The idea is that, the U.S. government wants to drive investment into areas that may not always see international investment as much as some core big cities. So I said there's not a lot of requirements on your side other than the 800,000, but we do. The key requirement is that we do show where you got the money. You have to show lawful source of funds, which is not really that difficult. Most people can. I mean, it's just you show that you've made the money through salary over the years and savings, through investments, through a sale of real estate. Maybe your parents or grandparents gave you money to do it. So it can be done, but that is a key requirement. We can't just accept cold cash, as they say. Now, on our side, or I should say on our side, our partner side, which Ken will talk a bit about, you have to create 10 jobs for each investment. Now, this is not as difficult as it sounds. It's actually more of a technical calculation, because you don't necessarily have to hire 10 people, because Ken works in the regional center program. They're able to calculate jobs by economic impact. So they can show if you invest money into a certain area, jobs are created as the money ripples out into the economy. So our partners take care of all of that. And so you don't have to worry. So EB5 is really a very passive investment migration program. And then finally, you do have to invest in a new commercial enterprise, which again, Ken Frost is going to discuss this in his portion of the presentation. Now, what are some of the benefits of the EB5 visa? Well, you and your spouse and your children under the age of 21 can all immigrate to the U.S. and get permanent residency. What is permanent residency? I guess I keep using the phrase green card permanent residency. Permanent residency is just that. It means you are a permanent resident of the U.S. and you get to enjoy all the same benefits, basically as a U.S. citizen, except for the right to vote. Now, you also hear people say, do you have a green card? I'm getting a green card. And the green card is simply just kind of the physical document of permanent residency. So, we use them interchangeably quite a bit, but they're both, they mean permanent residency. A permanent residency is a direct pathway to U.S. citizenship after 5 years, if you so choose, or you can simply keep your citizenship in your home country and use your green card as you like to travel in and out of the U.S., work at any job in the U.S. you would like. Kids can go to school, public school for free from K through 12, and you can study at universities at local prices. But one other key thing about the EB5 program, particularly the new EB5 program, is that it did two things. And I always joke that rarely do governments make immigration programs better. They usually tighten them up, make it more difficult for people to go through. But this is one of the cases where the U.S. government really did improve the EB5 program in 2022. Now, they did a few things. And one of the things they did was they raised the price. You might look around on the internet and you might see old websites that say EB5 is $500,000. That was the case up until 2022. In 2022, they did raise the price to $800,000, a minimum investment of $800,000. But they also gave a lot more benefits. For example, faster processing time, and even a designation to rural areas, which Ken's project is in, which allows for priority processing, really fast processing times that, you see processing times, even as fast as 3 to 6 months. One other thing for those of you who might be already living in the U.S. On student visa, on a work visa, if you file your EB5 petition, once you file it, you can do something called concurrent filing, which allows for an adjustment of status, which means basically as soon as you file your EB5 petition, you're able to kind of receive all the benefits of a green card holder. So rather than having to wait for approval, which granted is still pretty fast these days. I mean, in a project like Ken's, maybe 6 months, but still, you no longer have to wait for that approval. You can start enjoying the benefits right away. And this was really a great benefit that the government added when they did this, particularly if you're a student in the U.S. and you want to get a job, you're about to graduate, you want to get a job, you can just simply file your EB5 petition and you'll qualify to work. I guess why America? What's special about America? America's, as somebody who's lived overseas for about 20 years, I've recently resettled in the U.S. And, I'm always really amazed at the opportunities in the U.S. And the money. There's a lot of money in the U.S. It's the world's largest economy. It's very dynamic. And I'm here, and I just constantly see opportunities for business. There's capital available. So from just an economic and business point of view, America, there's really no other place quite like it. It also has one of the best education systems and healthcare systems. In fact, one of the great things too, if you are a green card holder in the U.S., you can have a lot of savings for your children when they go to public schools in the U.S. What we call the local tuition rates, which on average will probably save you about $25,000 a year per child. So just think about this: for a 4-year degree, you'll save about $100,000 on education alone. If you have 3 kids, you might save $400,000. So just on that alone, there's a real economic advantage to being a green card holder, as well as your children will be able to benefit from some government grant programs that are only available to green card holders and U.S. citizens. There's not a lot of requirements for EB5. There's no language requirement, business requirements, or business, experience. A lot of other countries in the world, Canada or Australia would have an English language requirement. Countries like Singapore have, business experience requirements. But America it's pretty much open to all, and this program does make it fairly easy for everyone to immigrate to. And currently, as I mentioned, it is a stable program. It's in law. So a lot of people ask me, recently, if, after the presidential election, if they could change the EB5 program or end it. And two things is no, that they can't. It's a law. A president can't end the EB5 program. And also, once you're a permanent resident, you're a permanent resident. Okay. So that's kind of the benefits of the EB5 program. I'm going to briefly try to walk you through the process. You'll see a lot of kind of numbers and form names, but I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible because it is a pretty simple process. And then we're going to move on to the exciting part of the presentation, and that'll be the project itself. So if you decide to do EB5 and signed up today, we'd start gathering up a lot of you signed up with a lawyer as well as Holborn Assets or Holborn Pass, and you'd begin collecting your documents. So you'd gather a lot of personal documents, passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates, as well as the lawyer would start helping you source your funds, proving where you made your money, getting bank statements, salary statements, and that sort of thing. The process usually takes about 3 months. It takes about 3 months to gather and prepare what is called an I-526E petition, which is basically your EB5 application. It's called a petition, but so it takes about 3 months to prepare that. Once that is prepared, the lawyer will submit the application. Now, at the same time, you have to have the $800,000 prepared to invest. So, in fact, you make the investment, and then the lawyer submits your I-526E petition. And if you're in a rural project like KINS, you'll probably see an approval in 6, 7, 8 months, or it could be faster. And so then at that point, you'll have what's called conditional green card. This conditional green card is for 2 years. Now, what is a conditional green card? It's actually, it doesn't limit or put conditions on what you can do with your green card. It functions just as a regular green card. You have all the same rights. You can travel in and out of the U.S., go to school, work. There's a condition on it for a reason. They want to make sure that you sustain your investment for at least 2 years and also create jobs. So those are two things that happen on the on Ken's side, on his business and his regional center, they manage that. So you don't have to, they make sure that the money stays invested. They make sure that the jobs are created. And after 2 years, we file what's called an I-829. And with that's it's basically, you get your conditions removed. So, you show that you created the jobs, you show that the money's invested. And then the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services will remove the conditions on your green card. And about a year after that, so in about 3.5 years with Ken's project, you receive your money back. So it's a pretty fast process and very clear process. For those of you who want to go on to citizenship, your clock, it's a 5-year process, and your clock starts ticking back here when your I-526 is approved. So, basically from the time you get your initial approvals, it's about a 5-year process to get U.S. citizenship. And if you like, it's not a requirement. You can make that decision after some time. So that's really about the process. If you started today, you'll have a green card in less than a year. You'll have your money back in 3.5 years, and you can become a U.S. citizen in 5 years. And I know it sounds very simple and too good to be true, but it's the way it works. It is a good program, and we have a really good investment, because that is the key part of this program, is that you have to invest money. You have to invest it into a private company. So at Holborn, we really try to vet our partners carefully. I've been in the EB5 business long enough where I always say, I don't want to work with anyone who hasn't been doing this for at least 10 years and has a track record, because it is, it's a fairly complicated business, and we want to work with people we know can kind of, manage your money, be honest, get you through the green card program, and get your money back. And also, in the case of this project, also help you make some money on your investment. So with that, I am going to, because we have a special guest today, Pedro from Excellium. A lot of you might know him or spoken to him in the past. He is the head of Excellium Capital, or he's a partner at Excellium Capital, our Holborn, one of Holborn's key Portuguese Golden Visa partners. And he's since met Ken Frost out in Texas and has become interested in the U.S. EB5 program, and also investing into the project, into the water recycling project. So, Pedro, maybe you can just say a few words about yourself,
Sure.
Your interest in EB5 project, and a little bit about Ken.
Sure. Well, thank you, Tyrone. Thank you for having me here today. Just a few words here. So I started actually immigration. I got in the immigration business back in 2011 through EB5. That's how I got in this world of immigration by investment. I lived in the US for 27 years, just moved back in 2021 to Portugal. In 2014, I started with Golden Visa. We've been very successful, done over 1,000 Golden Visas. A lot of those were done with Holborn. But I always wanted to go back to EB5 because I believe it's a great program. They actually do not compete with a Golden Visa, because the typical EB5 investor is someone that wants to move permanently to a different country, in this case, the US, as the Golden Visa investor is typically looking for a plan B for his life, but wants to stay where he's at currently. So I always felt that I could do both, because they complement each other in terms of business, and they do not compete. But I wanted to find, first of all, as the program was 4 or 5 years ago, I really didn't like it. But the changes that were introduced by the US government back in 2022 really made the program, I think, much better. And I saw that as the opportunity to get back in the EB5 business. I wanted to find the right partner, wanted to find a rural project, because I believe that's the best way to go about getting your EB5 green card. And I found Ken and his brother Robert. They have a great regional center and a really, really good project. I visited the project, spent a week in Texas visiting the site and understanding the business. so much so that Excellium has actually done a lot of due diligence to, in the near future, become an investor also in the project. So I got to know Ken very, very well in the past year. I really enjoy working with him, and I'm just here to recommend this project and let you know that we are going to be partners, and we'll be handling part of the distribution around the world. We'll be promoting this project together with our Golden Visa project. So, and with that, I will let Ken do his introduction and talk a little bit more about this project. Thank you.
In the dynamic landscape of the oil and gas industry, significant challenges arise from the methods we've used to tap into these essential resources. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, and saltwater disposal wells, SWDs, consume enormous amounts of water and generate vast volumes of wastewater in need of disposal or reuse in an economical and safe way. This presents a pressing environmental and economic dilemma. The oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin alone produces an astonishing 3.8 billion barrels of wastewater each year. At the current rate of extraction, it's expected to generate around 588 million gallons of wastewater per day for the next 38 years. This wastewater isn't merely an environmental concern. It's been directly linked to a surge in seismic activity. Data from B3 Insight shows that earthquakes in Texas and New Mexico have skyrocketed by 1,580% since 2016. These challenges have triggered regulatory responses, with authorities imposing limits on wastewater injections, particularly into deep wells. This has caused costs for shale oil producers to rise and made the SWD market intensely competitive. The profitability of many SWDs has been dramatically affected due to new restrictions from the regulators that lower their permitted daily injection capacities. Yet, the demand for water in the expanding oil and gas industry continues to grow, prompting a surge for more sustainable and efficient solutions. This is where the Cavalry Project steps into the rescue, a company that's revolutionizing wastewater management within the oil and gas industry. Classified as an EB5 rural project with priority processing, the Cavalry Water Recycling Project provides a unique pathway for an international investor to obtain a U.S. green card, while at the same time participating in a timely, dynamic, and highly profitable business opportunity. Cavalry Recycle is a pioneer in redefining how the industry views wastewater, not as waste, but as an asset that can be transformed into a source of revenue. The company serves the critical water business that underpins the energy sector. With a track record of more than 30 years of combined experience in North America, the Cavalry Water Recycling team has been an expert wastewater solution integrator with major technology manufacturers worldwide. Cavalry Water Recycling envisions a solution that revolutionizes and replicates a low-cost response to a significant issue: the growing seismic concern, which is causing hundreds of millions of dollars in setbacks. This enables Cavalry Water Recycling to serve as the one-stop shop for operators for all their wastewater management needs, from SWD and water sales to truck washouts. Equipped with replaceable membranes, Cavalry Water Recycling filters water and oil from the produced water, converting a traditional SWD from a single profit center into 3. The result is a circular economy where every process's waste becomes the raw material for the next process. This makes Cavalry Recycle the preferred choice for operators. They don't just manage wastewater, but transform it into a valuable resource, maintaining environmental and economic prospects. Are you ready to step into efficient and sustainable green energy with us? Contact us today.
Yeah. So as far as EB5 is concerned, looking at the slide deck here, the processing on that first page basically says that with a rural project, you can get a green card approval typically within 6 to 12 months. I want to mention that what's been happening actually on the average, the best I've seen is an approval in a shorter period of time is 3 months. The longest I've seen is 11 months. The average is about 6 months. So you go to the next slide. In West Texas, as I mentioned, tremendous amount of water comes up. We are locating our project. We have an 80-acre property, and it's in what's called the Permian oil basin. Permian is probably the most, or definitely is the most prolific oil basin in the United States. It produces number one in the amount of gas, and up to close to 50% of all the oil that's produced in the United States is produced in this one area. It's about a 100 mile by 200 mile area in West Texas. So you go to the next slide. Now, the reason that rural projects have priority is because they have 10,000 green cards every year, but they set aside 20% of them, 2,000 of the green cards are set aside strictly for rural. And this was the intention of the program, to create jobs in areas of high unemployment or a rural area. And 10% is for urban high unemployment areas. Now, our offering, what we do is we offer a set 5% fixed dividend annually on our project, but that's not the limit of what you can earn as far as a return on your investment. It's your investment is a preferred equity, but I will say that it's very similar to what you'll see in the EB5 world. Is a lot of times it'll be a loan model, where the $800,000 investment is a loan made to the project. We chose a preferred equity format, but we designed it very much like a loan. It's got a lot of the same, almost all the same characteristics. The difference is that the preferred equity will give you some additional upside on your return. Now, what's unique about our project, we're not the biggest project out there. We don't really want to be. Most of the EB5 projects are real estate oriented. Some of them are hundreds of millions of dollars each project. We're smaller, we're lean, and we are in a special niche that we work within that we think offers a lot of extra advantages to the EB5 investor. A few of those points, the EB5 investor is in the first position. We have no bank debt. We have no lines of credit, mezzanine loans, or senior loans. So that means that the EB5 is collateralized with their investment in the assets that we invest into to protect their investment. Just in case there was a failure or it turned out in a bad way, then they're in a position that upon a liquidation, they're going to be first in line and have a chance of fully recovering their income. So next slide, Tyrone. We can skip this one. Tyrone kind of went through the process. Again, just to give you some numbers on the salt water that's produced by the fracking, we're actually considered more or less a green project, as green as you can be when you're delving into the fossil fuel industry, because what we do, we have shifted gears as far as sending the water down hole, and we're very big on recycling of the water. So we clean the water, and the water can be reused. And one of the statistics here is there's over 2 billion gallons of fluids that are disposed of in the United States every day. So it's a massive amount of water. Next slide. The water management end of the business is about a $37 billion industry. And what we like about it is that you have a lot of fluctuation and volatility, as everybody knows, in the oil markets. But even when oil went down below $20 a barrel, and we went through, difficult times in the oil business, they have already made the capex into all these oil wells, and they're going to keep the oil flowing. So the water end of the business is something that's very stable. They have what they call flowback water, which is when they're fracking and drilling, that creates a lot of water. But then they also have what's called legacy water. So you have thousands of oil wells that are constantly producing every day, even in good times or bad times, because they've already spent all the money to get the oil, and they're going to keep it pumping even if it's $10 a barrel. So that gives us a lot more stability as far as being in the water end of the business. Next, Tyrone. Now, something that's very important is the timing of what we're doing is extraordinary. What happened that nobody expected is in the last 2 or 3 years out in the oil fields in West Texas, this actually happened in the oil fields in Oklahoma first, but then out in the oil fields of West Texas, they started having small earthquakes, and they'd never had this happen before. And they thought that it might be because of the fracking and the drilling, but it turns, for oil, drilling for the oil, but it turns out that it was actually the saltwater disposal injection wells that was causing, they're highly pressurized, and they were causing earthquakes. And they've had just a tenfold increase in these earthquakes. It started off, they were very small, 2 or 3 on the Richter scale. And then later in 2022, 2023, they started to have some 5.5 to 6.0 earthquakes, got everybody concerned. So the environmentalists and the regulators have cracked down on saltwater disposals. And in many cases, they're limiting the existing saltwater facilities on the capacity of how much water they can put down their injection hole. So each one of these facilities is about a $5 to $10 million construction cost. And you have all these established facilities out there that are kind of hurting right now, because before maybe they could put 30,000 barrels a day down. Now they can only put about 10,000 barrels a day down. So what we're doing, the name of our project, Calvary, is because we're basically coming into the rescue. And what we're doing is we take our recycling equipment, and that recycling equipment will be at the a central facility, but then we're also establishing 6 satellite facilities, which are basically equipped with mobile equipment. And what we're able to do is to come into some of the existing saltwater disposals that need new profit sources, and we're able to retrofit them and set them up to be able to recycle water instead of just putting it down the hole. Now, you go ahead and go to the next slide. This is we have 4 different locations in West Texas. This was our second one developed really close to the New Mexico border, where Texas and New Mexico meet. Anyway, what happens is when usually like the trucks will come into an offload area, a lot of times the water is piped in, but part of the sizzle of this whole business is that when we charge them to take the water, a disposal fee, there's quite a bit of oil that's left in the water. And we have the equipment where we can retrieve 99.9% of every drop of oil. That oil belongs to us when they deliver the water. And then we have tanks that can store the oil, and we sell oil. So we're actually in the business of selling oil, but it's kind of like oil. I'm not saying it's for free, but it's a very low cost basis. So we're just going to run through a few more photographs here. Well, let me stop here. This is the model of our project. Is our central 80 acre facility is what I would call a mothership or a megaplex, and it's going to have multiple profits and centers. We actually, on that 80 acres, we have a water well that produces 37,000 barrels a day of fresh water. So we're able to sell water, fresh water. It goes for about 50 cents a barrel, but 37,000 barrels, that adds up. Then we handle the produced water that we've already talked about. We actually go into heavier, more of a sludge, slurry type of water that has a tremendous amount of oil in it. And then we also have truck washouts, and those truck washouts will, you can have a truck come in and they drop off produced water, which is dirty water. And then we have a truck washout where then they can fill up with a load of fresh water and have their trip being productive both ways, coming and going. Also tank bottoms, all these big tanks out there, they have to be cleaned out. And those tank bottoms also have a very high level of oil. So we have multiple sources of revenue at the main facility. And then our 6 satellite locations are just smaller versions of this. And they're mobile, where we go in and set it up with a pretty small footprint. And then if the business changes over the years, we can actually pick those up and move them to another location if necessary. So our capital stack, our project is a $40 million project. $20 million of that is EB5 money. the preferred equity. There's the time frame on the project. What we do is during the first 5 years, the actual job creating entity, which is the project, has an option to buy out the EB5 investor early. And that's the way we've structured this, is that to be in a position within 3.5 years to buy out the EB5 investor with what's called a put option. When we do that, it's a $1 million buyout. So that means that the investor is going to receive the $800,000 original investment, which is considered tax-wise a return of their principal. And then the other $200,000 would be in dividend payments. Now, what we're doing is we're taking that 5% per year dividend and we're paying it within a shorter period of time of 3.5 years. What that does is raise the return of investment to the EB5 investor to 7.15% if we hit that exact 3.5 year period. So this is pretty unheard of in the EB5 world. There's some fantastic real estate projects that are huge, very well capitalized, very safe, and everything looks beautiful for those projects, and we admire those. The only thing that's missing is they don't hardly pay anything to the EB5 investor. It's quite customary for them to pay as little as 1/4% or maybe 0.5%. So my brother and I felt like we wanted to have a project that's different, that's, the money that's invested from an EB5 investor, that's sacred money to them. Of course, they want the green card. That's a big plus, and that's their main reason for investing. But we felt like they should get a decent return, and that's the way we've designed our project. This is an important picture because we see Tyrone there and with his vest on his trip out to West Texas. And this is actually the first facility that we built. And we're just going to go through these pictures real quickly, and I'll just point out what they are. So this is also the very first facility that we built in Barstow, Texas, very small town, but right in the middle of the oil activity. This is a rendition of our central facility. There'll be about 4 or 5 slides that show you what our central facility will look like. This is the first, some more pictures of the first facility that we built. This is another rendition of the central facility. Again, this is the first, that unit that we're looking at there was what's called a centrifuge, which was delivered right before we were out there, and that is to take care of the tank bottoms, the very heavy solid type of fluids that we receive. Again, another rendition, first location. This is our second location, which is the one close to the New Mexico-Texas border. And this is a very active area. Another rendition of the central facility. You can see this is going to be a massive facility. This is an aerial of the second facility that we built. It's not the prettiest of places because it's a dirty business, but we actually keep a pretty clean facility. Another rendition of the main operation. This is when we were building the second facility. That's one more. I think that's it on the pictures. So I want to move to a couple of things. This is just the end of the slide deck showing that this is designed for Holborn. I want to mention a couple things. Tyrone had said that the program had been revised, and so did Pedro in 2022. It was a big revision. As a matter of fact, we started as a regional center and got designated 2012. We really didn't start building out our projects till around 2015. And we've had 100% of all of our green cards in relation to our projects, 100% approval. We still have a handful that are waiting on their approvals, but we've had that track record as far as approvals. We just got, I want to mention, on January 19th, we just got redesignated as a regional center. This new program, they had everybody apply that was a regional center to go through a rigorous reapproval, redesignation approval process, and we got that approval. It's called an I-956 on January 19th last month. Now, this is the kind of breakdown on the return to the EB5 investor. And what we've done here is we've tried to create it. Most people that are looking at EB5 are looking at loan models, and that's the type of model that we've used in the past. But this preferred equity model pretty much mirrors the loan model. We pay a fixed rate of 5% annually in dividends. So on an $800,000 investment, at the end of the first year, you'll receive a $40,000 dividend, and each year after that. We have a targeted exit strategy at 3.5 years to buy out the EB5 investor. For the $1 million is going to include $1 million less the dividends received. So net to the investor is they will have received a total of $1 million. Now, our buyout is during the first 5 years. So your return, you can see here, the assumptions are with our target buyout at 3.5 years, the return 7.15. If it turned out to be a 4-year process, it would be 6.25. And then the worst case scenario would be a buyout in 5 years at 5%. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of the project. And I think, Tyrone, you want to open it up for some question and answers, I believe. You're muted, I think, Tyrone.
Yeah. All right.
There we go.
I'm just going to put up the highlights again to kind of summarize. And thanks a lot, Ken, Pedro. Everyone out there, if you want to ask some questions, the chat box is open. So just go ahead and start feeding them in, whether it's about the EB5 program itself and the process, or some of the requirements or benefits, or specifically about the Calvary water recycling project. We have this opportunity now to talk to the expert and to the person that you or your client will be investing with, Ken. So let's see. I see a couple of questions coming in here. I'll take, there's a couple questions here. I'll take the EB5 question first, the EB5 program question first. Then, Ken, I think you've already explained the second question, but let me say, well, the question is, are there any nationalities banned from the EB5 program? And I spoke to a lawyer just yesterday about this, and no, there's not. We welcome Russians, we welcome Iranians. I would say that with like people from any country, their funds will be under scrutiny. So, they'll have to be able to show they have very clean source of funds. But, something I am proud about with America is that they do welcome everybody, even given, sometimes tenuous international geopolitics. We don't, the American government does not hold that against the people of other countries. They don't blame the people for their government. So everyone's welcome in the EB5 program. The other question I see here is, I think one, Ken, that you discussed, the 3.5 year time frame. That's a target, right? I mean, it's not an absolute guarantee, because we can't guarantee things in EB5, but the 3.5 year is the target to return money to the investors, right?
Is that the second question you're
I think you covered it, but
that's a target. However, after the 5-year period, we do have a point where we actually return the principal regardless of us doing the buyout. So there would be a future date where they get the return of principal, even if the buyout doesn't, we don't hit the target.
Oh, hey, we got a very good question, which brings up a very good point. They asked, will there be an increase in government fees for the EB5 program? Ooh. And thank you for asking that question, because that's very important. I apologize for not mentioning this. We do have a timeline. What is it? April 1st, they're going to raise the price by about $10,000, roughly?
Well, actually, there's a fee that the investor pays when they submit the I-526, and typically it's around $3,500, I believe is what it is. They're raising it to over $11,000 April 1st, which in the U.S. is April Fool's Day. So, anyway, And then they're also raising a lot of the fees for the regional centers and for projects. In many cases, they're tripling the fees. And this just came out about 10 days ago. They made that announcement. Now, I don't think that's a critical decision for an EB5 investor. It's considering the amount of the investment. But if someone knows and feels comfortable that they're going to do it, there's an advantage for going ahead and getting their application in before April 1st. It saves them about approximately $8,000 on the initial fee.
Yeah, so it's just one more reason if you're ready to get going, it gives you a little incentive to get the petition finished up. Is the processing time same for all nationalities? I'd say in theory, yes. All petitions are treated similarly. That being said, there certain nationalities might undergo more scrutiny. The source of funds might undergo more scrutiny. Address the elephant in the room. I mean, of course, that'd probably be Russians and Iranians at this time. I think, their source of funds would be looked at very carefully, and there might be some extra, enhanced due diligence or requests for information from the U.S. Immigration and Citizenship Services. But in theory, everyone is processed at the same time. If you're thinking about under the old program, what happened is that, for example, with Chinese people, the line got so long for Chinese people under the old EB5 program, the processing times became very long for Chinese nationals. But in 2022, they started a new program. It's a fresh program, fresh line. So yeah, in theory, everybody's processed. All nationalities are processed in the same time frame. Okay. Well, let's see if you guys are thinking of a few more questions. I'm just going to kind of hit what I always find the highlights of this project and what I look for in all EB5 projects. And that is that they have a track, KIN's project, the Calvary project, has a track record, has I-526 approvals. It is an eco-friendly project, or as eco-friendly as you can be in the oil business, as Ken always says. But it is. I mean,
we're the good guys. So.
That's right. It's the recycling water. They're really kind of finding a solution to a major problem in the oil industry. It's a profitable business model. It doesn't take a long time to start up a project. Some real estate projects that you might look at EB5, it could be a 2-3 year build out, and things change in 2 or 3 years. Economic crises happen. financing. Interest rates go up or down, and it can really affect some of those large real estate projects. This project is, what's it take to get a facility set up, Ken? Around 6-7 months, 9 months?
Well, you can actually be creating revenue within 2 to 3 months, but then you're going to finish out the different profit centers. And so it's a process that within 6 months, you can be fully up and operating.
Right. So
hitting on all cylinders.
And that, I think, is important. That plays into the return of capital, because I know a lot of projects out there are, promising to return money 3, 4, 5 years. These large real estate projects, although, look, they're nice projects. If it takes them 2 or 3 years to build it, and, it's going to be they're not generating revenue yet, it could be very difficult for them to return money in that amount of time. Whereas the Calvary project starts generating revenue, within, 3 to 6 months. This makes it more believable, more realistic to be able to return money to investors when they're an easy setup and a quick revenue generator. Other things we look at is, there's no bank debt on the project, so the EB5 investors essentially own property and equipment, or that they're invested into it directly. And, we use economic model that shows that the jobs are created, so we don't have to manage, the investor doesn't have to worry about managing job creation or hiring people. And really, I think what's critical these days is, having been in the immigration business for so long, and I think Ken and Pedro will say this too, I think the hardest part about going through immigration is the time, is the wait. It becomes grueling, or am I approved yet? Am I approved yet? And with the rural location and these set-aside visas, it's the fastest possible way to get to the U.S. now. I don't think there's a faster program. It's probably on par with probably faster than a lot of people can get a business visa or travel visa to the U.S. anymore. So and that is for the U.S. green card. So it's really, I think, incredibly beneficial to invest into a rural project and get into that, priority processing. So I think, those are just some of the highlights of the project. And I think it's important that you got to meet Ken Frost tonight or today, this morning, wherever you're at, because, he's going to be the one managing the investment and as well as managing the actual operations. He has partners, people who will manage the operations directly, but he's the EB5 partner in this particular project. So, all right, everyone, thanks for joining. If you have more questions, we're happy to set up individual calls. I know Ken, Paige, and myself are always available in some time zone. I'm always happy to get on and have a personal individual call to answer your questions and your particular situation in more detail.